That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The British Constitution provides that taxation and representation shall go together. Therefore, women taxpayers are entitled to vote.
I have a dream today. Let freedom ring, and if America is to be a great nation, this must become true.
Hello and welcome everybody to episode 46 of the Only Human podcast. This will conclude season 2 of our series. We run 23 episodes per season, and we're going to finish up today on a pretty powerful topic. The title of today's podcast is We Are Never Truly Ready. So we're going to talk about readiness. But before we start, I'd like to welcome any first-time viewers, and welcome back any long-term viewers. And please encourage you to share this with your networks, because that's the way that we grow, and we think we're doing something really powerful here. So we'll begin today like we typically do with our Blue Threat Proverb of the Week. And today it's Blue Threat Proverb number 40, a brand new one. And it says, we are never truly ready, only prepared. We're never truly ready, only prepared. And since we can't really know what our next challenge is, we don't know whether our level of preparation will be enough to meet it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to follow this podcast up with a few more on preparation and readiness. But we're going to cover a big overview today to get you comfortable with thinking about how we can get more prepared and have more successes in the future. So let's go ahead and get into this. The only thing that can really define your readiness is its test against some challenge, right? Therefore, the only way we can really know if we were ready or not is in the past tense. If we faced a challenge and we were successful in overcoming that challenge, we can probably view ourselves as having been ready for that challenge, right? Unless it was luck or somebody else helped us or whatever it is that surrounded our success. If we failed, we can probably learn the few lessons that will help us be more ready for a similar challenge in the future. The thing that we need to understand, really important thing to understand, is that challenges vary. They might be small challenges that come up against a strong area of our preparation, in which case we're ready. Or they might be big challenges which come up against a weak area of our preparation, in which case we are obviously not. And I want to take an example that I think will illustrate this a little bit. One of the favorite terms, I spent 21 years in the Air Force, and the military loves to talk about combat readiness. And I think it's a wildly misinformed term. But the whole world uses it, right? You can go to any unit out there in the U.S. military today, and they'll tell you we are 80% combat ready, or 99% combat ready, or we've fallen below 60% combat ready. And they have all kinds of metrics for that. And I think the big problem with that is that, at least on the human side of the equation, they have no idea, right? The enemy gets a vote on whether or not we're ready. Right? What is it that Mike Tyson so famously said? Everybody has a plan until you get smashed in the face, right? So are we ready or are we not ready? With this term combat readiness, I think it fits okay if we're talking about number of aircraft maintained or some logistical processes in place. But when it comes to the human element, the best we can do is say we're adequately trained to the existing standards. And a lot of us think that way, right? Whether it's in the military or out of the military, when we're trained to a standard that the government or maybe our organization sets for us, we have this notion that we are ready, right? Because somebody set a standard, we meet the standard, we must be ready. And I'll say again what I've said before several times. The world, our adversaries, all of the elements that can create our next challenge is under no obligation with either the regulator or your organization, or you for that matter, to give you a challenge at the level of some arbitrarily defined standard. So I think the best we can do, and it's pretty good, I think the best we can do is to identify and constantly pursue some elements of readiness. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And so far, I've been thinking about this a lot, but so far I've really only come up with two primary clumps of readiness. One is preparedness, and the other is vigilance. Preparedness and vigilance. So back to the blue threat proverb, we're never truly ready, only prepared. So what can we do to improve our chances of success to the next big challenge in our lives? It has to go beyond what's currently being done. Now, I'll use an aviation example because that's the world I come out of. We go to simulator training, for example, where we train on some pre-canned emergency procedure scenarios, right? We lose an engine on takeoff, or high altitude depressurization, loss of electrical system. We kind of know in advance what they might be. And more importantly, there's nearly always a checklist of guidance that we can go to, right? Even at home, we get a massive plumbing leak that suddenly our floors are getting covered with water and we don't know what to do. But we really do know what to do, right? We call a plumber and we bring someone in to fix it. He's going to tell us to find the water shutoff valve, and we'll do that, right? But even there, you can get an idea of what preparedness looks like. Right? You think through this scenario, and you say, what would happen if I had a massive plumbing leak? Well, I'd probably have to shut off the water. I wonder where the master shutoff valve is. Maybe I should find out. Right? So that's kind of what we talk about here with preparedness. You see, we don't usually get those scenarios that are pre-canned by the simulator instructors who love to write those. I love writing those scenarios. Or the common everyday type of challenge. Sometimes we get really weird challenges, right? Illnesses, financial challenges, emotional challenges, mental health challenges. Sometimes they're combined with each other. Sometimes one leads to another. And I like to say, rather than a canned scenario, this is oftentimes a cat fight in a closet. And I Googled up, we're going to show some of these, but they're pretty violent, so I'm going to have to edit it out a little bit. I Googled up YouTube cat fights, right? And when you look at it, man, there are these ridiculously athletic, fast animals that are just ripping into each other, twisting and turning, fur flying everywhere. And you wonder how anybody could ever prepare for that kind of emergency. But sometimes that's the way the world treats us. It comes at us fast and hard from directions that we never thought to prepare for. But maybe if we thought enough in advance, we might be able to. So let's break this down now just a little bit more. And I want to start with this idea of preparedness. in my head, as I think this through, I'm a big mind mapper, right? Drawing circles and all of that. There's an AI tool that's supposed to help with that, but every time it draws me one, I end up having to redraw it. So I'm not sure the AI is helped me much. But as I see it, there's 4 pots of preparedness. There's mental preparedness, physical preparedness, behavioral preparedness, and emotional preparedness. Now, even though they're in their own pots, it's like they got little tubes that impact each other. They all interact with each other. And so I want to walk through each of these pots of preparedness and see if we can glean out a few things. And we will likely go into deeper detail on these in future podcasts because it's just my early stage thinking on this stuff. Mental preparedness, number 1, mostly related to stuff you know, right? Not just facts and figures, but things like problem solving or critical thinking, the way you manage your attention to make sure you don't get surprised, the mental tools you use, like mindfulness, to help you control your emotions and your mindset. Like I said, lots of things here we don't have time to get into on this podcast, but I promise you we will in a future. So that's mental preparedness, stuff you know. Things you know how to do inside your own head when a big challenge comes your way, whether it's a canned one you expected, or a cat fight in a closet. Right? All right, so let's go to physical preparedness. There's a lot of stuff out there on how to get in better shape, how to have a better diet, all those types of things. And they all seem to be pitched at our vanity, right? How good we look. Right? Anti-aging stuff, all of the outreach, the marketing on fitness means and products, services, all seem to be aimed at our vanity. I want to take a different approach to this today because I think physical readiness is the most foundational element of our preparation. Every thought we have, every action we take, everything we perceive, interpret, decide upon is all impacted by our physiology in a wondrous, God-given complexity of neurochemical firings and stuff like that. What are the things that fit into that category, right? Obviously, fatigue. We have to get enough rest, right? But fatigue is not only about sleep. Fatigue is about mental exhaustion. Right? Fatigue is about nutrition and hydration. Fatigue is about our relative state of fitness. Fatigue is about our aging. Right? So all of these elements determine how physiologically we are, how physiologically prepared we are to deal with a challenge that can come at us out of nowhere anytime it wants to. So our physical preparedness is something that should go well beyond wanting to look good, right? Or stay young, or whatever it is. Our physical preparedness needs to be aimed at our ability to handle the world. And so again, future podcasts, we're going to go deeper into that. So far, mental preparedness, physical preparedness. The next is behavioral preparedness. That's kind of a weird word, behavioral. But it means your habits, the things that you can do automatically without a lot of thought. It also means your skills, things that you have learned to do with your hands, with your head, sometimes with your heart. But our behavioral preparedness means that when something bad happens, we have some go-tos, right? Here's how I work through a problem. Here's my risk management process, right? Here's the first thing I do in a real emergency. Get people and things out of harm's way, right? The next thing, try to figure out what's causing it. The third thing, fourth thing, fifth thing. Again, stuff will cover more. But those are things that are learned skills, and they're practiced habits. So, okay, mental preparedness, physical preparedness, behavioral preparedness. Now let's talk about emotional preparedness. We put a little bit of time in on emotions in some past podcasts, but it's your ability to self-monitor your emotions and through empathy intuit the emotions of others that are involved in whatever this challenge is, often called emotional intelligence. More importantly, and here's the key to preparedness, it's the ability to shift between riding an emotion for positive gain, like I'm truly excited about this, man, I've got some motivation here, I'm going to ride it, to a point when you need to turn off the emotions and return to a logical mode of thinking at the exact moment that the challenge calls for it. This ain't child's play, right? Once again, it's something that's built out of experience and habit only if we take the time to learn those things. So, mental, physical, behavioral, and emotional preparation are all things we can and should be doing every day to prepare for the unknown challenge or challenges in our future. So that's half the picture, preparedness. Now I want to talk about vigilance. I guess if I was to write an equation, it would say something like personal preparedness plus or times vigilance equals some level of readiness. Right? Whether it's enough or not enough depends on the challenge we face. So second half here, let's move on to vigilance. What is it? What is vigilance anyway? Vigilance is awareness. Vigilance is awareness of potential risks or threats or opportunities. Right? And I think in today's world, with everything swirling around us, our mental stability under attack from multiple sources, basic vigilance is not enough. I think to be truly ready, we need to be, or at least able to turn on something I call hyper-vigilance. Hyper-vigilance. So I heard that term and then I looked it up and I didn't like the definition. So like a lot of things here, I'm going to redefine it. But here's the Webster Online Dictionary definition of hyper-vigilance. The state of being highly or abnormally alert to a potential danger or threat. Right? There's a couple missing pieces there, right? And there's a word I don't like. So hypervigilance can also be used for seizing opportunities, so it doesn't have to always be in response to a threat. I think really good business people, good decision makers at any level, good parents, are hypervigilant for opportunities, teaching moments, learning moments, profitability moments, right? So the word that I really don't like there, it says abnormally alert. So I kind of redefined it. Here's Tony's definition of hypervigilance. The state of being highly and normally alert to abnormal potential dangers, threats, or opportunities. Say that again. The state of being highly and normally alert to abnormal potential dangers, threats, or opportunities. So that's what we're looking for. To me, this second piece of the readiness equation, in addition to preparation, is vigilance. I believe in today's world, we need really amplified vigilance. So I'm calling it hypervigilance. So the core competencies of vigilance, I have given a little bit of thought to, and I'm going to run through, a list here that I've got of them. They're essential for maintaining high levels of awareness, sustaining our attention, and our ability to respond to threats, critical situations, or opportunities, right? They're really important in environments where things like your life and safety or your security or your mission success depends on consistent and constant high-level alertness, right? can't become complacent, apathetic, all those things. Typical vigilance will have periods where it goes down into those areas, and we can't allow that. So that's why we're calling it hypervigilance. So here's a few of the core competencies of hypervigilance. First, self and situational awareness. I call it S²A, self and situational awareness. And that's basically, a lot of you know what it means that are watching this podcast, but it's the ability to continuously monitor and interpret both the internal and external environment. Interpret for what? Monitor and interpret what? You're looking for subtle changes from the status quo. Something that means something's changing, right? It might be an emerging threat. It might be an emerging opportunity. And it includes being really cognizant of details, comprehending their significance in order to say this might be happening, right? This bad thing could be forming. I can see the storm out there a ways away, or I see this opportunity coming. I'm going to be ready for it. So number one, self and situational awareness. Number two, sustained attention. And sustaining attention is hard. It's particularly hard in a world that's always vying for our attention, right? The whole concept of the attention economy is to keep us clicking on the internet or watching a new series. By the way, I just started the Umbrella Academy. Looks pretty awesome. But I'm trying to hold myself to one episode a night. It's the capacity to focus on not only a task, but a situation or stimuli of any type over extended periods of time, especially in highly distracting or low stimulus environments where vigilance is naturally attacked, right? So sustained attention, self and situational awareness. The next one, risk, threat, and opportunity detection. So that's just basically the ability to take that last piece, our attention. We notice a detail and we interpret that and figure out, is this a risk? Is this something that's good? And how might it play out in the future? These can be really subtle, maybe even unexpected indicators, right? But we have to be able to assess their significance. Risk perception, threat detection, and opportunity detection. Number four kind of ties into self-awareness, but it's self-regulation. And this has a lot to do with our physiology box that we talked about earlier in our preparedness or our physical readiness. It's the ability to be aware of and manage/control our mental and physical states, right? Which will include all those things, combating fatigue, stress, boredom, distractions, all those things that can diminish vigilance. So you can begin to see how these things all tie in together, right? We're still talking about vigilance. Keep that in mind, even though I flashed back to preparedness there. The fifth thing is memory and recall. I'm getting to an age where I'm really, really nervous about forgetting things. I've always been forgetful, man. Every time I set down my car keys, I don't know where they are, right? So I just made lots of copies of my car keys, and then I stumble upon the ones I lost earlier. That's my remedy for that. But once you understand memory, short-term memory and working long-term memory all pulls from things that you know and habits that you've developed. So it ties back into those mental and behavioral preparedness skills. It allows you to keep track of things that are going on through your attention and attach the right meaning to things that are going on, right? Patterns, shifts in their environment. So your memory and recall is huge in informing your intuition that says, something's different here, right? Number 6, kind of almost a platitude, but it says decision-making under pressure. We need to understand that we make decisions differently under pressure. Sometimes we make snap decisions based on our intuition. Sometimes we stop and take time to think it through. We need to be the master of deciding which that is, right? So the ability to make quick and effective decisions based on limited and incomplete information while still controlling our emotions and remaining calm and composed is a really important step in being able to sustain our vigilance. Number 7, which I could have included in an earlier one under attention, is attention to details. And I think what's important about this is that the more we know and the more experience we get, the more we can work through habits and processes of our own making or someone else's making, the better we're going to be on detecting small deviations or irregularities in the way things usually go. Okay? And so by paying attention to detail in everything we do, we're creating a habit pattern of noticing when the smallest things aren't right. I'll give you an example. I'm working on, I've got a 4-wheeler out front, 2007 Honda Rancher, thing you sit on top of and drive around a ranch. I was working on it the other day. Being a Honda, everything is metric, right? All the nuts and bolts are metric. And so I slap a metric socket wrench onto this one particular piece on the frame, and I notice it's just a little bit loose. The socket was loose, not the bolt. Actually, it was a nut. And so I take my 5/8 socket out of my standard socket set, and I put it on there, and it fits tongue and groove. What's that tell you? It tells me somebody has worked on this before and replaced a metric part with an SAE part. Now, is that a big deal? Not necessarily. The nut could have been tightened with the metric wrench. It just wouldn't have fit exactly as snug. But it gave me a cue that, hey, there was an amateur mechanic that worked on this somewhere along the way. Keep an eye out for other things. That's the kind of attention detail we're looking to develop. Notice the small things. The last one kind of takes us out of it's not actually the last one, but kind of the last one, takes us out of this personal, individual warrior knight mindset into the team environment. And that's noticing the similarities, different strengths and weaknesses through communication and coordination across the team. In a group setting, vigilance relies on the ability to communicate in a timely and effective manner, right? To share observations, collaborate on responses, identify threats, risks, dangers, opportunities. There's always, in every accident investigation I'll ever read, there's always one person that says, yeah, I saw that, I just didn't think to speak up. So a really good individual will pick up on when somebody goes silent and says, hey, I notice you look a little uncomfortable over there. What are you sensing? What are you seeing? Okay. So I want to kind of bring all of this together. So far, remember, we've talked about our 2 big pieces of readiness. It's preparation for some unknown challenge, and it's vigilance, which we decided what we really need was hyper-vigilance. We've talked about the various elements of preparation: mental, physical, behavioral, emotional. And then we ran down this list of things we can do to be better at being vigilant, maybe even someday being hyper-vigilant. All of these things, of course, are not separate inside of ourselves here. They're all connected, and they all rely on practice, things we can do every day in everyday opportunities. As long as we are, and here's the last thing, adaptable and flexible. We have to be able to quickly adapt to new things we learn and changing circumstances and new risks, threats, and opportunities without being overwhelmed. It has to become a natural thing. We have to become naturally adaptable, naturally flexible, in order to take these 2 big things that we have, preparedness and vigilance, and pull them together into readiness. So glancing at the clock here, it looks like we're kind of running out of time. So I want to wrap this up by saying thanks. This is a big issue, a big topic for me right now. I'm looking really hard at it, and I'd appreciate any feedback and thoughts that y'all have on it. I think the most important reminders from today's podcast is that Blue Threat proverb that we're never truly ready, we're only prepared. And if we fool ourselves into thinking we're ready, we're making a pretty big assumption that the world is going to map to some standard that either we set for ourselves or somebody else set for ourselves. That's a big trap. Graveyard's full of people that thought that way. I think the second big takeaway today is that there are specific things that we can do to enhance our preparedness and enhance our vigilance. And we would be really wise to do those things on a normal, everyday basis. First of all, you'll get to know yourself a little bit better, maybe make a new friend when you look in the mirror in the morning, as you begin to realize some strengths and weaknesses and gaps that you can fill in. And secondly, it's going to make you more prepared and potentially ready for the next big challenge that comes. So with that, thanks again. This is a wrap up for season 2 of Only Human. Gosh, it seems like we just started yesterday. Please share, follow, especially on places like LinkedIn and Facebook where we have completely different circles of friends. There may be people out there in your circles that would enjoy this and that I'd love to bring into our fold here on Only Human. So until next week, we're not going to take a week off this time in between podcasts. We're going to move straight into season 3. There'll be some upgrades to the podcast, some new visuals, that kind of stuff. But we're going to stay on track. We're going to publish again next Tuesday. We drop every Tuesday at 9. Until then, remember, be all you can be with the resources at hand. Keep yourself and everybody else around you as good as you can be. Till next week, we'll see you soon.